And the last question is how to set up audio devices. So first of all, let's talk a little bit of what are audio devices. Audio device, the name that it's a little bit self-explanatory in the name. It's a device that handles audio in the computer. Let's have an analogy. What is a graphics card? It's a device. It's a card, a physical thing that you put inside of your computer in the motherboard, so that it can handle video better. So the better the audio card, the better the video card, the better the frame rate and the processing that you can do in the video cards or in your PC. The same goes for audio. Even though audio doesn't have the same requirements as a video card has, but audio is pretty much the same. What it is a audio card or audio device. It's something that you either put inside of your computer, or you connect it via USB or Thunderbolt or whatever connection there is. And it's a device that handles audio in a higher quality than your built-in system in the motherboard. So it's really, really important. If you are new to music production, one of the first things that you have to consider is to buy an audio device or audio card. And that card normally has some drivers. And basically everything in Windows works with drivers. So if you connect something to your computer, either a mouse, either a keyboard, a piano, audio device, a video card, they need something called a device driver, which is a piece of software that runs in the kernel of Windows. And that piece of software has all the functions necessarily to communicate with that device and hand over data to the kernel, to the operating system, and to the device. So it manages the communication between the operating system and the device itself. So that's a device driver. And it's very important to have the correct one selected. And what you can have in FL Studio is that you can have multiple devices, audio devices in your system. For instance, I have my Focusrite. I have also PreSonus USB audio. And I still have this, let me see if I can show you. I don't want to unplug this right now because it might crash my system. And what we have also, I have here a Zoom H1N device. And basically, you have all these devices connected to the system, and those have a device driver. And what you can do in FL Studio is select which device you want to communicate with. So if you have 2 or 3 audio devices in your system, you can inform FL Studio and say, hey, FL Studio, please communicate directly to the device number 1 or device number 2 or device number 3 or whatever device you have in your system. So let's go ahead and see how can we do that in FL Studio. So I hope that was, at least the device thing was understanding, that you could understand what a device driver is or an audio device. So now if I go here to FL Studio, I have here the options. And if I select audio devices or audio settings, you can see that I have here something called device. If I click here, you see that I have a bunch of devices here. I have Audio for All, I add Audio Box, FL Studio Audio, and Focusrite USB Audio. Because I'm doing this screen recording, I need to have FL Studio Audio, but my preferred way to use FL Studio is the Focusrite USB Audio. Why? Because this communicates directly with my device driver or my audio interface. So whenever I want to communicate with my interface, I use this Focusrite. If I really want good performance, if I'm not recording anything with OBS or something like that, I just go here and select Focusrite. The other times I use FL Studio Audio because that's the device driver that I need to record video so that you can listen what I'm doing here in FL Studio. So that's basically it. You will probably, if you don't have a Focusrite or a PreSonus device, you will not see these ones here. You will have different devices. So you have to select your device, and after you select your device, it will show here. You have to select the buffer length. So if I open this up, you see that for FL Studio ASIO, we have different buffer sizes and also inputs here. So I defined in my system the default inputs that I wanted, and both the default input and default output, they are my Focusrite USB. That's why whenever I record something, it automatically detects that my inputs are from the Focusrite. That's why I use that. The second thing that you have, or the first thing that you have to be careful of, is the length of the buffer. You can see this here, that with a 384 sample size, I have 9 milliseconds of latency. If I'm in the mood for mixing something, I would go for a higher sample buffer length. So if I select 1024, you see that I have now 24 milliseconds. This is not good for instance, for recording MIDI with my keyboard, but it's good for mixing because it reduces my CPU load. If I want a really fast response and I'm not worried about mixing, I go for 256, and you see now that I only have like 6 milliseconds of latency, which means that whenever I click my keyboard, my MIDI keyboard, I click and in 6 milliseconds, the data is sent to FL Studio. So it's very fast, and it's really, really cool to have. So if you have higher latencies, what it happens is that your audio might not get synced. So it might be 24, let's say this one, 24 milliseconds delayed. And this can cause a really big impact in your recordings and the way they are synced with your beat or the thing that, or with the rest of the tracks. So this can cause problems. But mostly, if you are just mixing, you are not thinking about recording anything, you can go with higher values here. If you are thinking about mixing, you can go with lower values here. And also, if you feel some dropouts like clicks and pops in your track, you can go for a higher sample rate or sample size, sorry. And yeah, so I think that's it, guys.